and welcome to this week's ILBI Talks. Today we have two new faces. Well, one half new face because he was here last week and we introduced him. He's been all over our Instagram page. But this other face is a face that is beloved to many around not only the Chicagoland area, but throughout the Midwest and probably internationally. Um,
Oh, I
Dana
would,
Hofer. Dana Hofer from Dana Hofer's Brass Repair, located in Des Plaines, Illinois. Dana's shop is regarded as one of Chicago's most respected repair shops. And he's worked on, I don't even know how many professional and amateur and student instruments. Um, I know that no one else has ever touched one of my instruments in the 12 years I've played tuba. I've only ever taken my instruments to Dana, and I'm so excited to have him here and talk to him about his career and his life. Um, Before I ask the first question, Dana, is there anything you would like to add about yourself so that people can get to know you?
it's certainly it's very nice to be here. Thank you for asking me, and I look forward to our time together. And we do about 1,200 instruments a year. So there you
Ah, that's a lot of instruments.
go.
How do you do all that? How do you? What's all like the moving operations of that? What is and like big scope of it? What does it look like for you?
Um, well, I have help. A number of people have worked for me for quite a few years at part time, and I'm kind of in between full time employees right now, um, which is a thing that happens. So basically, 70% of what I do here at the shop is servicing instruments. That 70% of the revenue is generated by the cleaning services. So that's basically just taking the instrument apart, doing the thorough cleaning that we do on it, and then put it back together, set up the valves with new felts, align the valves, make sure everything's functional mechanically. On silver instruments, we polish them, and then that's pretty much it in a nutshell. And then the other 30% is removing dents, soldering broken pieces back together, brazing pieces back together. Custom work falls into that category. Um, and so that's kind of the big scope of what we do here on a daily basis.
That's cool. Um, what got you started? Because I know that, and I'm a little fuzzy on the details myself, but you're also a musician. You're not just a repair
Right,
technician. You're a musician as
right,
well, and an accomplished musician at that.
right. I I the short story on how I got started was in 1991. I had just gotten out of the Air Force Band of the Midwest. It was a quintet job. I was lucky to get it and to do that job for almost 4 years, and then they shut it down. And then I landed in Chicago, and I was playing around town, doing different things. Um, and I needed my tuba worked on. I went to a guy that everybody recommended. His name is Wayne Tanabe, and he was really busy, and I had a lot of free time, so I offered my help. It's like, well, I'll help you if you need help, and he said, okay, no promises, no guarantees on how long I need your help, and I was I was fine with that. Like I didn't care. I had a little bit of vacation pay still coming to me from the Air Force, so I started with him, and his business took off at that point. He'd been in business for a while already, but it took off enough to where I stayed employed with him for 3 years straight from that starting date. And then I learned from him uh, everything, all the basics. I was taught by a true master, and after that, I went to some other shops and worked 10 years for Carnes Music, and they sold to Music and Arts, and I worked another 5 years for them. And then I started, at some point, I started working out of my garage, and there was a transition there, working after, after hours in my shop or in my garage. And then eventually I ended up full time at the house, and I was there for almost 4 years. And then I needed a bigger space, and that's the space I'm in now. And I've been here 6 years. So I've been on my own just about for 10 years now, and
Wow.
in the business for 30 years.
Oh wow. Okay. What were those first few years as an apprentice? Like it was like it kind of sounds like an apprenticeship almost, right? I know it was an
Right.
employment, but it was like
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I was lucky because of the the at I Wayne's shop was was just taking off with more volume. He already had established his name. He was very talented, or is very talented repair guy, and he's still out there. So um, it was like one-on-one time with him, and I remember it, and I feel like this has come up numerous times when I've trained people. I was working with him, and it took 2 years to get to the point to where he could just describe to me as like, okay, you need to do this, this, and this. And then I knew those things he spoke of, but I might not have known the order or, but I knew the basics enough to where he could just tell me what to do. And then I would be able to do it. And, uh, and then from there, it was just a lot of, working, and you get into a difficult situation, you ask for help, and you see how he does it, and then you slowly just start absorbing everything that's going on around you. But I think the key was early on was all the one-on-one time. It was just the two of us, and that's really what gave me that quality um, time to learn. And um, so, as best I can remember, that's what it was like. And I feel like things were a little slower back then too. The pace we worked at, just the pressure was a little different. Um, so that also helped in the process.
I want to get a silly question out of the way early. Can you give us your top five instruments that you've worked on, whether it be like someone's specials instrument, someone really important to you or to the brass community, or just like a wonky thing that came through your door and you're like, I got to tell somebody about this.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's things that stand out in my mind. Like we pulled a hairbrush out of a tuba one time, and I had to unsolder part of it to get it out because we figured out that something was in there, and that's actually on an Instagram post that's you could sort through there and find it. That was kind of a wonky thing. Um, you know, um, there's been like some custom jobs. Some of those are on the Instagram. I did that little Z brace for the trombonist, which was kind of cool. Um, and it turned out better than I had expected, although I spent a tremendous amount of time working on that, and it's not a moneymaker at that point. Um, Other things that, like, it's in categories, I um, I gravitated towards doing uniball conversions on tubas and on trombones, and it was a combination of something I enjoyed doing, and I improved the process of how I did it and what the in product was, and also the demand for it was there. So it's a cool thing. I always enjoy doing those jobs because I'm real confident in the product, and I know people are really going to appreciate it, and that it's a long lasting thing that I do mechanically for the instruments. Let's see, other outstanding jobs, just exciting things. Like one time, the trombonist for, oh, now I forgot his name. Oh, I can't believe I forgot. It'll come back to me. But players have come in that they're on the road or they're playing with a really famous person, and it's just neat to spend time talking with them. And like I spent an entire morning working with a trumpet player who was playing a show in town for COVID. Rick Rakeman was doing a live tour around the country, and it was broadcast here in Chicago, and they would do each concert at the time zone of the city they were in, and it was also themed for the city. And they just did dozens and dozens of these concerts. And that trumpet player was from the Bay Area, and he came in, and I fixed his trumpet, but it was really enjoyable talking to him, just telling stories, hearing stories. Those are a big part of what I enjoy doing here, is meeting the customers and having conversations with them, and also fixing their instruments.
One thing I wanted to ask was, is there anything you feel like, Dana, that hasn't come into the shop yet? Anything that you could probably foresee as like a disaster situation, or maybe some outlandish instrument that may just be like an odd challenge every now and then? But is there a
It happens all the time. Like every time you after 30 years, you think you've seen everything, and constantly an unusual instrument. There's an Italian tuba over here that it looks like it has the bells up. It's real skinny. Never seen one before. It constantly comes up, either an unusual instrument or just a super unusual repair. It's hard to remember, but I constantly say to myself, yes, I've never seen this before. And then you just kind of have to figure something out, how to make a part, or, just how to get around it and continue on. So that's a unique thing about the business. It is a lot of the same thing over and over. And then again, there's different things that constantly come in too, as far as variety goes.
Hi, so I have a question. So as a repairman, what would you say are like some of your top things that you recommend people to do to their horn without professional help, just at home by themselves?
Oh, of course. I mention these things to the customers all the time. So different instruments have a few different things you could do. So like on trumpets, the best thing you could do to keep your horn really clean for much longer period of time would be to snake out the mouth pipe daily. It would be awesome. If you did it once a week, that would be really good. And the same thing with French horn. And those instruments are unique because you can easily take the tuning slide out and pull a snake through. So that's something that would just take a minute, and it helps the entire instrument stay cleaner. And then oiling the valves often is also a good thing to do, because it helps flush everything through the instrument. And essentially you blow the oil out anyway. So the more often you do that, the more lubricated it'll stay, and the less wear. Trombone's the same thing. You take off the outside slide tube and pull a snake through the inside slide tube. That'll keep the entire instrument cleaner as well. Tubas and euphoniums are a little more difficult because you don't have direct access to the mouth pipe through a tuning slide. Most of those, if not all of them, just about, the tuning, the mouth pipe goes directly into the valve casing. So you can take the first valve out and slip a snake through the valve casing and pull it out of the mouth pipe. And I can show, I've showed people how to do this. It can make a difference. Otherwise, on those instruments, you can do basic things like just washing off the valves and washing out the tuning slides if there's a lot of buildup in there. You might not be able to get everything out of the valve section if you're not going to give the entire horn a bath, but if you just eliminate some of that stuff, it'll help. And those are some pretty basic things that can just help the horn perform at its peak for a longer period of time before you have to bring it in for a cleaning.
What's like maybe 2 or 3 things that people do that you definitely recommend they avoid?
That they avoid?
Yeah.
Probably the number one thing is avoid not greasing your tuning slides, because tuning slides are constantly, like, from maybe half the instruments that come in here, they're all stuck. And it just makes it hard to get the instrument apart. Sometimes I have to unsolder the slide crooks and pull out the tubes individually to get them apart. They might not have moved for years. So not greasing the tuning slides is like, avoid doing that. You know, it keeps the instrument, you know, functional. You could pull out the slides and clean them a little bit if they're actually moving. I don't know. You know, other things. I mean, they're kind of obvious. You know, like not dropping your instrument, or trombone slides are pretty delicate. So I think some players might not be as gentle with the slides as they should be, and they might not be realizing how easily those tubes bend. It's hard to accuse them of doing that, but I believe that that's an easy thing to avoid. I know some players, I know the lyric guys do this. They don't set the trombones on the tuning slide itself when they're resting. I'm sorry, on the slide. So like if you're just sitting there and you have the slide sitting on the floor, that's actually putting weight on the tubes. And over a course of time, it can warp the tubes. So if you're sitting there for a long period of time, just hold it in your lap or have a trombone stand so that the slide's not under a lot of pressure.
Absolutely. I know that some tuba players also do something similar. They'll have those K&M stands, or they'll have these like sleeves that they put the bell in so that it kind of like keeps the weight distribution a little bit differently. And I know that like there's definitely been a tuba, like I used to play this Kronitz PCK big old C tuba, and I would really avoid putting it on its bell because the bell was so thin. And I was
Right.
always a little worried that, like even just someone like walking by and like scratching, like their backpack scratches
Right.
or pushes against the bell, it could have an issue. Um, so
Yep.
definitely having an awareness of the thickness of your instrument. And
Right. And, I mean, some tubas, it's fine, I would say, to put them on the bell, but you have to consider the environment you're in. And if there's a lot of people walking around and you have your tuba on its bell leaning up against a chair and somebody could easily bump into it, then that's not a safe thing. So I think a lot of the damage, especially in schools, it comes from just the environment it's in, other people accidentally bumping into the instrument and causing damage. And often customers come in and say, oh, somebody slammed in my instrument or whatever. And maybe some of that you can't avoid, but some of it, I think they could have possibly avoided it if it hadn't been in that awkward position to begin with. But it's hard to know. I mean, unless you're there.
You mentioned some of these conversions, some of these modifications that you've started to make towards trombones and
Right.
tubas. Are there any specific modifications that you've done to your instruments during your performance career? Like any
When I
things that you've done to your tubas that just like made a huge difference for you?
it, oh, just a few. I did do uniball conversions on them,
Hmm.
and other than that, they were. I played on Maraphone tubas. I had a 188 and a 184 that I played on for decades. I ended up selling both those instruments, and they're out being used right now, which is a pretty cool thing. I kind of thought I'd have those instruments indefinitely, but since I'm no longer playing, I passed them on, and so, but yeah, I didn't. Modifications on tubas or any instrument in order to make it play better is a really tricky thing, and some repair guys excel in certain areas, like mouth pipes for French horns. Ron Pence makes an incredible mouth pipe for French horns, and many players around the country and internationally play on his mouth pipes. And uh, he does a he does some work on trumpet mouth pipes and the tuning side as well. And when somebody starts asking questions that are going in that direction, I send them to him. Some custom things I do that are real successful, I didn't come up with them, but people have been doing them for years, is on typically on Bach 42 trombones, we can open up the rotary valve, and that opens up the F side of the trombone. So it's just not as much of a change when you engage the valve. And then I also do a thing, it's called, it's an edge style brace, where I take the braces that are connected to the bell. We remove those and put in another brace that holds the, uh, the F slides onto another brace that's going across the bell tuning slide to the neck pipe. And those are modifications. I do those a lot, and it really opens up the sound. And they're not like I said, I didn't come up with those. People have been doing that for many years. But there's still lots of instruments out there that could use the benefit of those. So that comes up. And on the flip side, a few times I've put on a different crook on a hand slide, on a trombone slide, and I I don't know what the percentage is, but it's not successful most of the time when you try to make a trombone hand slide play better by changing out the crook to like a maybe it's brass and you put on a nickel crook. It doesn't always help, and it's a hard thing to guarantee. If someone's asking me about that, I can't guarantee that. Yeah, this is definitely gonna make a difference. You should do this. It's a thing, like the instruments are they're they're made as a complete package at the factory, and it's really hard to improve with that package. And a lot of times, my recommendation would be, if there isn't anything really wrong with the instrument, then you should start looking at other instruments to find exactly what it is you're looking for. And typically, players go to the Bach factory. They might play 35 trumpets, and they'll find one, and that's not uncommon at all. And that's what it takes for a high level player to find an instrument that matches them.
So to pivot a little bit, I wanted to ask about your career as a tuba player. I know you mentioned your Air Force band quintet a bit, but if there are any other highlights that come to mind, I'd love to hear about it.
Yeah, that was a good time in the Air Force. It was a full-time job, and we were here in the Midwest. I was at Chanute at which is in Rantoul, Illinois, just outside of Champaign-Urbana. And so I did that just about for 4 years, and came here and joined a group called the Cathedral Brass. And then we played around town, doing just whatever, all the typical kind of jobs a quintet does. And then in 04, we launched a recording project, and pretty much it was my project. I funded it and pretty much coordinated everything, all the rehearsals and the recording space and the engineers and everything. And that recording turned out to be I feel like the pinnacle of my playing career. I played as well as ever as well as I felt like I could play on that recording, and it represents my career. We played a Brahms organ prelude on that recording, and that was a piece that I was introduced to when I was in high school by the gentleman who arranged it, and we played that arrangement for decades, and it ended up on the recording. And I thought that was pretty cool that, you know, through the test of time and the quality of that arrangement, and of course the Brahms organ prelude, now I have that recorded, and I can enjoy it, and I can literally remember, when I was in high school, when I was playing with these guys, playing that piece for the first time, and it was scary. It was really scary because it can be kind of thin in some places where things are kind of like not as easy to count. So that is a good thing. I'm glad I spent the money on that recording. It was a huge investment that I never got back, but I would do it again.
Yeah, it's fun to put a project like that together. Can you talk a little bit more about, just checking my mic's on. Can you talk a little bit more about the kind of the opportunities and also the sacrifices that you may have faced in that early part of your career when you were just starting to navigate what you wanted to do and what opportunities were coming up, and
Right.
you balanced all of that?
You mean both playing and repair?
Yeah, kind of, and like
Yeah,
kind of peeling the curtain back and saying
right.
like this is
How
what
it
I was kind of,
Sure.
yeah.
Well, I always, I wanted to play as much as possible, and I'm I definitely wanted to play full time, but that never happened, and I was always doing the repair, which really lent itself to being able to play at the same time, and to keep practicing a lot, and and I I kept them both going, pretty much up until the time that I finally stopped playing. And at some point, I knew that there was a transition where, okay, this repairs is going to be the my focus. This is the main thing that I do. Playing is like a side thing, but they went together really well. I was always around musicians in repair, and it was motivating in a lot of ways to be around guys that are playing, and kept me practicing. And then in on the repair side of things, this seems to come up a lot in conversations, and people talk about, how did I get here? What, how does that work? And I see this all the time in real life, even as recent as last night on American Idol. I I feel like the way life works for the majority of us is you get these opportunities, and I call them, luck. You get an a lucky break, a chance to maybe substitute for somebody, or like I just happened to walk into Wayne Tanabe's shop when he was super busy and he needed help, and I was there on that day and got the opportunity to work for him. And then after you experience that luck, then you have to have the skills to take advantage of this opportunity that has been given to you. And um, it can happen both ways. Like somebody can have a real lucky break, but not have the skills to do whatever it is that break is giving them the opportunity to do. Or somebody can have a tremendous amount of skills and not have a lucky break. Um, it's just a thing I feel like that happens. You can set yourself up, I believe, for better luck by doing certain things as just being a kind person, treating people well, being well liked is not a thing you can just decide you're going to do. It's a thing you kind of earn, and you have to establish a sense of community in what you're doing and the people you're doing it for, and really respect and like the people. And then I believe that builds confidence with them and how they feel about you. And then when something comes up, they'll go, oh, I remember that person, and I think they would be good to maybe give this opportunity to, because my interactions with them was good, and they always left me feeling positive. So and I had those lucky breaks in the repair, and I was able to keep ahead of myself as far as the skill level. I think early on, I think about the skill level, and it's like, wow, I was really in over my head. But you get through it, you manage it one way or another, and hopefully you don't mess up your opportunity. But mistakes have been made, and I'm convinced I've made every possible mistake out there. But you have to recover from it. You have to spend whatever time it takes to reverse the mistake, or spend the money that it takes to reverse the mistake. You broke something or whatever it was. It's like, I'm going to need to buy a new part, and this person wasn't expecting to have to do that, so I'm going to just give it to them. That doesn't come up often, but you need to have the mindset of being willing to do that, and then do it when it does happen.
Kind of along those lines, can you describe any differences between how you were taught, kind of the craftsmanship of brass repair, and how you teach some of the other people that come into your shop?
Yeah. That's a killer question, because it's different. It's way the way I teach and the way Wayne taught it was night and day. Like, he was very hands off, and he would tell me things, and I would just screw things up, and he'd come over there and we'd fix it. And he just left me, on my own a lot. And we got through it, and we the customers were satisfied and all that kind of stuff. But and that's kind of, I mentioned earlier that the things were different back then. With the rate that we worked on instruments, the turnaround, the intensity, I feel was a little less, and not the intensity for quality, that was always there, but here the intensity for the volume of quick turnaround that we do, I'm getting just about everything in and out of the shop within a week or less. And then lots of people are needing things like within a few days, and we have to juggle that. So we don't have a lot of time to just, to let somebody sit there and fiddle around with an instrument for an hour and a half and not get anything done. So I'm a very hands-on teacher, and at this point, when I'm working with somebody, I'm very specific about how I want them to do it, and I'm not very flexible that way. Even training someone to clean an instrument, I was recently just doing this, and so the way I feel like somebody can learn how to do something the quickest is just get their hands on it. So, but I was literally standing there and going through every motion, and then we did a second instrument, and I was a little less a little more hands off, but I was still standing there going, okay, now do this, and now do this, and then my comment during this process was, I want you to learn this, and then after you've kind of gotten the hang of it, we're going to come back in here and keep fine tuning this as we go, so that two things are accomplished. The high quality job is done in the shortest amount of time. And the same thing when we come out here and we start learning how to assemble an instrument, there's a very specific order that we do set up the valves. I start with the second valve, and so it's just laid out. And I didn't learn that way. I was kind of just left on my own, and then Wayne always checked everything, but I just felt like I wasn't under the kind of pressure that I'm under here to get everything in and out as quick as we need to do it.
Do you have any tidbits for someone like me that's about to enter the world of professional music? Just anything that comes to mind, nothing in particular.
Sure. This came up, I did some sessions with Scott Teggy when he was doing his sessions last summer, and they talked about books that people are reading and things like that, and I feel like as a person, like we never stop, or we should never stop learning. I was able to spend some time with Will Scarlett, and he, like, every day, that guy he learns something, and he learns a new skill, or he learns some historical thing that he was telling me about. We were doing a clinic in Bloomington Normal, and he was there, and the clinic that we were doing was for NAPRD. It's a National Association of Professional Band Repairmen, and I was doing a clinic there on dent removal, and so he was there learning dent removal, but on his trip out there, he was driving to all these outlying cities and learning history, and the cities are one day's stagecoach ride apart. And he was telling me this stuff, and I'm just thinking, like, wow, I'm so impressed that he's still learning. So I feel like, we need to always have that attitude. And I like to read self-help books. They keep me motivated. They've helped me just get through different phases of where I feel like I'm, stalled out. And so I'll come across a book one way or another, or one of the better ones I read a few years back, there was a review in the Tribune. I got it. It was written by this guy who was a comedian, and he had some great things to say that were very, very current, in a very current comedian kind of language. And so find a source of renewed, knowledge. What if in self-help books, in whatever form that best interests you. And I think something else I wish I knew at your age was how important food is as far as good health and longevity, and just I ate so poorly for so many years, and now at this age I don't have a choice, because if I don't eat well I feel really bad. And um, and so and having to like really change a lot of habits that way. And this has been an ongoing thing for maybe 4 or 5 years now. I've lost uh, a number, I lost a bunch of weight, and that turned everything around. So healthy eating is a lot more important than I think a lot of people want to think about. And it's food is can be overly convenient and easily accessible, but it's really bad for you. So you have to work a little harder at it. So that anyway.
No, I can understand that, especially since the amount of times I've come to your shop and got Paradise Pup and just
Yeah,
got absolutely nothing done the rest of the day.
I know.
Overwhelming.
I yeah, we used to go there a lot, but and I love those hamburgers. Like that's just a great thing. But man, it just makes me feel pretty crummy for the rest of the
Hmm.
day. And I turned 60 this year, and it's like you have to you have to decide, like, okay, am I going to indulge myself? And I know I'm not going to feel very well, or am I going to not have that and be productive,
Hmm.
for the rest of the day, get through the stuff I need to get through. And when you're younger, you can get away with it. I mean, your body just is a lot more resilient, but it catches up to you. And I think the thinner we learn to respect our bodies and what we eat, the more productive we can be, and help do what we need to do.
100%. And we look forward to Caston's update from the cafeterias at DePaul this coming fall. I'm excited to hear about that. We like to end things on ILBI Talks with just a quick go around. We think it's very important for us to recognize the great things in all of our careers and lives and communities. And so we like to end with one simple question. What are you thankful for today? Why don't we all go around? I'm not going to go first. Caston, why don't you take it away?
I'm grateful for the orchestral playing in my future. Um, I'm fresh off of a rehearsal with CYSO, and I'm feeling kind of amped about it because it's been a while since I've like been with a. It was a half of the ensemble because we're split into pods, but it was still playing with strings, playing with the brass section, playing with woodwinds, playing with percussion. It was really exciting, and I can't wait to do more of it.
Akshat.
Here we go. I am forever grateful um, for people's patience and people's willingness to learn alongside me and not necessarily judge each other for not knowing everything. And the teamwork aspect of what a musician and running anything and being a part of a team is. It's wonderful to know, especially hearing from Dana today, that even at the after lots of career changes and after lots of experience in the field, that you're still out there hungry to elevate your game, and you're out there expanding what you're doing, and it's inspiring, frankly. So I'm grateful.
I'm thankful for really great teachers of all kinds. I had a friend. I had breakfast with him this morning, and he just inspires me a lot. He's a great teacher, and he's interviewing. He's trying to switch programs. He's far away from his family, trying to get closer. And just he was telling me about this interview and all these things that they were asking him and his answers, and I'm like, every single one of those answers, I was like, see, this is why you have that job and I don't. Just people who are inspiringly good at what they do and also are inspiring in how they interact with those looking to learn. So that's me. Dana, would you like to close
Sure,
us out?
sure. I'm thankful for the arts in general because it contributes to humanity in a huge way, and you guys are all part of it, and it's a way that I'm able to contribute to humanity by helping um, musicians with their instruments and keeping them functional so they can go back out and play in their communities and bring enjoyment to their communities wherever they are, and professional or amateur, it doesn't matter. It's just the arts in general are extremely important. I'm like grateful that they've evolved and keep evolving as we speak, and that guys like you are, perpetuating the whole cycle and keeping everything going and pushing forward and helping to make progress and make it also accessible for more people. So, and all of that keeps me employed, so I'm thankful for that a lot.
Wonderful. Well, this has been an inspiring evening brought to you by poor audio connections and the wonder of Zoom. So, thank you, Dana, for your time and
Oh, you're
for
welcome.
all that you do and all of the disasters that you have gotten me through when I lived in Chicago. All of the times I have come and go, this is broken. I have a concert. um, so I know Akshat is very thankful for your work and for just your candor. But that's it. We did it. We're
Okay.
at the end of another ILBI Talks, and we hope to see you on the YouTube side of things real soon.
Okay, thank you.